The massive Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Eleanor Reed stepped forward. The circular room stretched hundreds of meters across, with tiered seating rising like a coliseum around the central judgment platform. Thousands of alien representatives from over 500 species watched from their designated sectors, their combined power representing 90% of all known intelligent life in the Milky Way. Eleanor felt small under their collective gaze. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 40 years ago, making them infants by galactic standards. The 5-person Earth delegation looked painfully vulnerable facing the combined might of a civilization that had existed for over 12,000 years. "The Council has reached its decision," announced High Arbiter Vox, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that conveyed his emotional state better than his words. The patterns displayed clear disapproval. Earth's petition for protected status is denied. Eleanor maintained her composure despite the crushing diplomatic defeat. Behind her, Ambassador Thomas clutched his datapad with whitening knuckles. The other 3 human delegates, Defense Specialist Malik, Xenobiologist Dr. Hayes, and Trade Envoy Rivera, remained perfectly still, as they had been trained. Vox wasn't finished. Furthermore, the Council finds humanity guilty of territorial encroachment into the Orion Spur development zone. You will surrender your outer colonies within 30 cycles or face immediate sanction. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species shuffled appendages in the equivalent of applause. The Athraxi delegation, seated prominently in the front tier, displayed particular satisfaction. Their ambassador Mur flared his neck ridges in what humans had learned was a gesture of triumph. "With respect, High Arbiter," Eleanor spoke clearly, her voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. "We came here in good faith. We've spent 3 years in these negotiations. We've made every concession requested. Yet you continue military expansion," hissed Delegate Moore, leaning forward. "Your ships appear at our borders with increasing frequency." "Defensive posturing only," Eleanor countered. "Perhaps if the Dominion hadn't obliterated our research station at Europa." The chamber erupted in overlapping alien voices. Some translators struggled to keep up with the cacophony of clicks, whistles, and subsonic rumbles that constituted formal protest in various languages. High Arbiter Vox slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times, the booming sound restoring order. "The destruction of your outpost was ruled an accident during preliminary hearings," Vox stated coldly. "The matter is closed. The Council's decision regarding your territorial violations is final. Comply or face the consequences." Eleanor exchanged glances with her team. The meaning was clear. They had exhausted all diplomatic options. 3 years of negotiations, concessions, and appeals had led to this moment. Earth was being ordered to abandon colonies where millions of humans already lived. She reached for her communicator, a clear breach of Council protocol that triggered a new wave of outrage. "Initiating contingency Omega," she said. Simply, the chamber's lights flickered momentarily. The massive view screen behind the Council dais activated without authorization, displaying a tactical grid of the galaxy. As the delegates watched in confusion, thousands of small blue dots began appearing across the map. In every sector, every major system, near every significant homeworld. "What is this?" demanded Vox, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "You have no authority to access Council systems." "We didn't," Eleanor answered calmly. "What you're seeing is a live feed from our own network. What you refuse to see, Arbiter. Humanity didn't just build ships these past 40 years. For every vessel you detected, we deployed 100 autonomous stealth platforms. The blue markers represent our quantum-linked observation network. Already deployed. Already active." Delegate Merx rose in fury. "This is an act of war." "No," Eleanor corrected. "This is an act of preparation. You should know, Arbiter, that humanity has voted. The peace talks have failed. We are withdrawing from these proceedings." The implications hit the chamber like a physical force. Humanity wasn't surrendering. They were walking away with unprecedented leverage. And somehow, without any species noticing, they had already positioned themselves throughout the galaxy. "You cannot withdraw," Vox stated, though uncertainty had crept into his voice. "The consequences will be determined by actions taken in the coming days," Eleanor finished. "We came seeking peace. Remember that. With a nod to her team, the human delegation turned and walked toward the exit. No one moved to stop them. The council chamber remained unnaturally silent as the doors slid open. "Admiral," Vox called out just before they left, "what exactly are these platforms capable of?" Eleanor paused but didn't turn around. "For everyone's sake, I hope we never have to demonstrate their full capabilities." "Good day, Arbiter." 12 hours later, the human delegation's transport ship approached Earth's orbital command station. Through the viewport, Eleanor watched as their homeworld came into view, blue, green, and swirled with white clouds. From this distance, you couldn't see the scars left by the climate wars of the previous century, or the massive arcology projects that had saved their civilization. "Do you think they believed us?" asked Thomas, breaking the silence that had persisted since they left council space. "They believed what they saw," Eleanor replied. "Which is exactly what we intended." Defense Specialist Malik joined them at the viewport. "The Athraxi will push for immediate action against us. They've been looking for an excuse." "Let them try," Eleanor said. "The network is fully operational now." The ship docked smoothly with the station. As they disembarked, General Marcus Donovan was waiting for them. His expression confirmed what they already expected. "The Athraxi have seized 2 of our freighters near Proxima Centauri," he reported without preamble. "They're claiming the vessels violated their territorial boundaries." "Casualties?" Eleanor asked sharply. "None. Crews have been detained but are reported safe." Eleanor nodded. "They're testing us, seeing if our threat was real or just a bluff." The group moved through the station's corridors toward the command center. Personnel stepped aside respectfully as they passed. "Was it a bluff?" Donovan asked quietly when they were alone in the elevator. Eleanor smiled thinly. "Not entirely. The network exists exactly as we showed them. Its capabilities, however..." She let the sentence hang. The doors opened into Earth's interstellar command center, a massive chamber humming with activity. A central holographic display showed the same galaxy map they had revealed to the Council, with the blue dots of their network pulsing steadily. "The President is waiting for your report," Donovan said. "The Security Council has been in emergency session since you left Council space." "Tell them we've entered Phase 2, Eleanor replied. "And activate the Prometheus Protocol." Malik looked alarmed. "Admiral, that's not a decision you can make unilaterally." "I'm not," Eleanor said. "This was the contingency plan all along. If diplomacy failed, we would demonstrate our resolve. The Athraxi have provided the perfect opportunity." She walked to the central console and placed her palm on the scanner. "Dr. Okafor, are you ready to proceed with Prometheus?" A new voice answered through the communication system. "We've been ready for months, Admiral. Just waiting for your command." Eleanor took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Humanity had tried peace. They had extended their hand in friendship. The galaxy had slapped it away. "The Athraxi believe we're weak," she said to everyone in the command center. "In 3 days, they'll discover just how wrong they are. Initiate the countdown." On screens around the room, a timer appeared, ticking down from 72 hours. Somewhere deep beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Okafor's team began the final preparations for a demonstration that would change the galaxy forever. The peace talks had failed. Now it was time for humanity's response. News of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council spread across interstellar networks like wildfire. Trading posts from the Orion Arm to the Perseus Spur buzzed with speculation. The mysterious blue network remained operational but dormant, causing ripples of paranoia throughout developed space. No one knew what the humans were capable of, only that they somehow had eyes everywhere. In the Athraxi homeworld's orbital command center, War Commander Krell paced before a tactical display. His aide, Sub-Commander Palax, watched nervously as Krell's claws clicked against the polished floor. 2 human vessels, meaningless in the grand scheme, Krell muttered. Yet their central command refuses all communication. 3 days since their capture, and not even a protest. "Perhaps they fear provoking us further," suggested Palax. Krell's neck ridges flared in contempt. "These humans don't understand fear properly. They're too new to the stars. They need to be taught their place." "The Council is divided on how to proceed," Palax noted. "Several species have urged caution until we understand the nature of the human network." "The Council has grown weak," Krell hissed. "Comfortable in their millennia of peace. They've forgotten how the galaxy was ordered in the first place, through strength and decisive action. He manipulated the tactical display, highlighting the positions of the Athraxi battle groups. Hundreds of warships representing the most formidable military force in the quadrant. Prepare a message to High Command, Krell ordered. Request permission to deploy the 7th Fleet to the human colony at Tau Ceti. Let's see how brave they remain when their worlds are threatened. On Earth, Admiral Eleanor Reed studied similar tactical displays in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility, built centuries earlier during Earth's internal conflicts, had been repurposed for interstellar defense. Representatives from Earth's unified government filled the observation gallery above. The Athraxi are mobilizing their 7th Fleet, reported General Donovan. Intelligence suggests they'll target Tau Ceti. Population? Asked President Alvarez from the gallery. 800,000 colonists, Eleanor answered. Minimal defensive capabilities. We couldn't evacuate more than 10% before the Athraxi arrived. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Tau Ceti was one of humanity's first extrasolar colonies, established before they understood the complex territorial claims of galactic politics. According to the Athraxi, it encroached on their developmental interests, despite being 30 light-years from their nearest outpost. How long until the Prometheus Protocol is ready? The president asked. Dr. Amara Okafor stepped forward. Her team had been working continuously since the delegation's return. The system is operational, Madam President. But there are significant risks. We've never deployed it at this scale. Explain these risks, demanded Defense Minister Garcia. Amara gestured to the display, where the blue dots of humanity's network pulsed steadily. As you know, the network was designed with 2 purposes. The first, surveillance, is what we revealed to the Council. The second is what we're calling Prometheus. She brought up a technical schematic that few in the room fully understood. Put simply, we've discovered a method to manipulate quantum fields that govern faster than light travel. We can selectively disrupt or permit FTL capabilities in targeted regions of space. You're saying we can strand their fleet? General Donovan asked, eyes widening. Essentially, yes. Their drive systems would fail catastrophically. Any ship attempting to engage its FTL drive within the affected zone would find itself unable to do so. The ethical implications, began an aide. Were considered long ago, Eleanor interrupted. When the Athraxi destroyed our research station at Europa, killing 300 civilians and claiming it was an accident, we made our decision. The galaxy plays by different rules than we anticipated. We've adapted. President Alvarez leaned forward. Dr. Okafor, what exactly happens to the Athraxi ships when Prometheus activates? Nothing physically harmful, Amara clarified. Their conventional engines will function normally. They'll simply be restricted to sublight travel only. In practical terms, this means they'd be decades or centuries away from any support. A prison of distance, murmured the president. And we control the key. Eleanor nodded. That's why we deployed the network so widely. We needed coverage throughout all major travel corridors. What about the human freighters they've seized? Asked Minister Garcia. We have extraction teams ready, General Donovan answered. Once the Athraxi fleet is neutralized, we'll retrieve our people. President Alvarez stood, signaling a decision had been reached. Admiral Reed, you have authorization to proceed with Prometheus. Dr. Okafor, prepare your team. Let's hope this demonstration convinces the Athraxi and the wider council that humanity cannot be bullied. Ambassador Tomas sat alone in a private meeting room aboard a neutral trading station. Despite the peace talks' failure, he had maintained back-channel communications with several moderate council species. 3 representatives had agreed to this clandestine meeting, away from Athraxi surveillance. The door slid open, admitting delegates from the Vortan Collective. The Helian Republic and the Jexari Technocracy, all 3 represented civilizations that had, at various times, faced Athraxi aggression. Ambassador, the Vortan representative began. Your warning message was concerning. Thomas nodded grimly. What I'm about to tell you must remain confidential. In approximately 12 hours, Earth will demonstrate a technology that will fundamentally alter the balance of power in this quadrant. Another bluff? Asked the Jexari, their mechanical translation unit giving their voice a metallic quality. I wish it were, Thomas replied. My government authorized me to warn you for one reason. We value the moderate voices on the council. We want you to ensure your military assets are not operating near Athraxi installations when the demonstration occurs. The three delegates exchanged glances. The implications were clear. Whatever humanity planned would affect Athraxi military capabilities, and anyone operating nearby risked becoming collateral damage. You speak of war, the Helian stated, their feathered crest rising in alarm. I speak of establishing boundaries, Thomas countered. The Athraxi have seized our ships. They're mobilizing against our colonies. We tried peace for 3 years. Now we'll try another approach. The Vorton's skin changed color, a sign of deep concern in their species. There are procedures, diplomatic channels, all exhausted, Thomas interrupted. You've seen how the Council operates. The established powers protect their interest while emerging civilizations are expected to accept whatever scraps they're offered. That arrangement no longer works for Earth. He stood, signaling the meeting was concluding. I've delivered my warning as a courtesy. What you do with this information is your choice. As the delegates filed out, the Jexari paused. The Athraxi have dominated for centuries because no one dared challenge them. Whatever happens next, Ambassador, know that not all species will mourn their humbling. Aboard the Athraxi flagship Inevitable Dominion, War Commander Krell received the authorization he had requested. The 7th Fleet, 118 warships carrying enough firepower to reduce a planet's surface to molten slag, prepared to depart for the human colony. Set course for the Tau Ceti system, Krell ordered, his voice carrying across the command deck. Maximum battle readiness. We will show these humans the consequence of defiance. Commander, Pelax reported. Our intelligence networks indicate unusual activity among the Vortan, Helian, and Jexari fleets. They appear to be withdrawing vessels from our shared patrol zones. Krell's eyes narrowed. They've been warned. The humans are more cunning than we gave them credit for. He considered this development briefly before dismissing it with a gesture. It changes nothing. Our fleet outmatches anything humanity can deploy by orders of magnitude. He opened a channel to the assembled fleet. This is War Commander Krell. Today we remind the galaxy of the natural order. Emerging species must learn their place or face extinction. The humans have chosen defiance. We will make an example of them that will echo across the stars for generations. Throughout the vast formation, Athraxi crews prepared for battle. None questioned their superiority. None imagined they were flying into a trap. As the massive engines powered up and navigation computers calculated the jump coordinates, a signal flashed across human communication channels. Prometheus activated. In Earth's command center, Eleanor watched the tactical display as the Athraxi fleet prepared to jump to FTL. Dr. Okafor stood beside her, fingers dancing across her control panel as final adjustments were made to the Prometheus field. Target lock confirmed, reported a technician. Field parameters established. On my mark, Eleanor said calmly. 3, 2, 1, execute. Dr. Okafor pressed her palm against the activation plate. Throughout the galaxy, thousands of the innocuous blue observation platforms shifted function, emitting precisely calibrated quantum fields. On the display, the Athraxi fleet icons flashed red as their FTL drives engaged, then immediately flickered to yellow. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened just 6 hours after the Athraxi fleet was stranded. The massive chamber, normally orderly and procedural, had descended into chaos. Delegates shouted over one another while aides rushed between sections, sharing information and forming impromptu alliances. High Arbiter Vox struggled to maintain order, his ceremonial staff pounding uselessly against the floor. This technology violates fundamental principles of interstellar cooperation, bellowed the Athraxi Prime Delegate, his neck ridges fully extended in rage. It threatens the free movement of all spacefaring species. Perhaps the Athraxi should have considered that before mobilizing their war fleet against a civilian colony, countered the Jexari representative, their mechanical voice cutting through the noise. Fox finally managed to restore a semblance of order. We have received formal communication from Earth, he announced. They are demanding the immediate release of their detained vessels and crews, formal recognition of their territorial claims, and reparations for the Europa Station incident. Fresh outrage erupted from the Athraxi section. Blackmail! Shouted their delegate. We will never yield to such tactics. Your fleet is currently traveling at sublight speeds through deep space, the Vorton representative noted dryly. At their current velocity, they will reach the nearest Athraxi outpost in approximately 78 years. Perhaps some flexibility might be advisable. Before the Athraxi could respond, the chamber doors opened. A human figure entered. Not Admiral Reed or Ambassador Thomas, but Dr. Amara Okafor. She walked calmly to the central platform, her dark skin contrasting with the simple white uniform she wore. "Who authorized this intrusion?" demanded Vox. "I come at the request of several council members who sought technical clarification about Prometheus," Amara replied, nodding toward the Vortan, Helion, and Jexari sections. "My name is Dr. Amara Okafor, Chief Scientist of the Prometheus Project." The chamber fell silent. Here finally was someone who could explain exactly what humanity had done. "Proceed," Vox said reluctantly. Amara activated a small projector she carried. A holographic display appeared above the platform, showing complex equations and field diagrams. "Faster-than-light travel relies on specific quantum field configurations," she explained. "Our technology allows us to selectively disrupt these configurations within targeted spatial zones." She manipulated the display to show a map of the galaxy with overlaid blue dots, humanity's network. The system can be calibrated to affect specific vessel classes, drive types, or even individual ships. The Athraxi fleet has not been damaged, merely prevented from engaging their FTL drives. "This violates natural law," protested an Athraxi scientist who had joined their delegation. "No, more than FTL travel itself does," Amara countered. "We've simply found a way to regulate the loopholes in physics that make interstellar civilization possible." The implications rippled through the chamber. A species that could control who travels through space effectively controlled the galaxy itself. "Do you understand what you've done?" Vox asked quietly. "You've destabilized 12,000 years of galactic order in a single act." "An order that had no place for us," Amara replied. "We came to the stars in peace. We were met with threats, territorial disputes, and the destruction of our outposts." She gestured to the Athraxi delegation. Their fleet was on its way to a human colony with 800,000 civilians. "What would you have had us do, Arbiter? Accept our destruction?" Before Vox could answer, the Jexari representative rose. "The technocracy formally recognizes Earth's territorial claims and sovereignty. We propose immediate bilateral negotiations for technological exchange and mutual defense." Within moments, the Vortan and Helion delegates made similar declarations. Throughout the chamber, alliances that had stood for centuries began to fracture as species reassessed their positions. "This session is suspended until tomorrow," Vox declared, recognizing he was losing control of the situation. "All delegations are urged to consult with their governments before taking irreversible positions." As the chamber emptied, Vox approached Amara. "Your Admiral Reed has upended the galaxy, Doctor. I hope humanity is prepared for the consequences." "We've spent 40 years preparing, Arbiter," she replied. "The question is whether the Council is prepared for a galaxy where power is more distributed." Aboard the stranded Athraxi flagship, War Commander Krell faced a growing crisis. The initial shock of their predicament had given way to anger among the crew, and now, 12 hours later, the first signs of fear were emerging. "All attempts to restart the FTL drive have failed," reported the chief engineer. "The quantum field simply won't stabilize. It's as if the laws of physics have been rewritten in this sector." "What about communication?" Krell demanded. "Quantum entanglement communicators remain functional. We maintain contact with High Command, but—" The engineer hesitated. "Speak freely," Krell ordered. "There's nothing they can do, Commander. No rescue mission can reach us if the same technology would affect their ships as well." Krell paced the command deck, aware that his crew was watching for signs of weakness. "The humans cannot maintain this disruption indefinitely. It must require enormous energy." "Our analysis suggests otherwise," Subcommander Pelax said quietly. "The disruption field appears self-sustaining once established. It could potentially remain active for decades." For the first time in his military career, Krell felt genuine fear. His magnificent fleet, the pride of the Athraxi Dominion, had been neutralized without a single shot fired. "Prepare a communication to Earth Central Command," he ordered finally. "Request terms for our release." Shocked silence fell across the command deck. An Athraxi war commander asking for terms was unprecedented. "Sir," Pelax began, "High Command has explicitly forbidden—" High Command is not trapped 70 light-years from the nearest outpost, Krell snapped. I am responsible for the lives of 60,000 crew members. Pride will not sustain us for 78 years of sublight travel. As the message was prepared, Krell gazed out at the stars. They suddenly seemed very distant and cold. On Earth, Eleanor Reed studied the message from Commander Krell with mixed emotions. The Athraxi commander was requesting terms while simultaneously threatening that any excessive demands would result in severe consequences once the current situation is resolved. Even in defeat, they remain arrogant, observed General Donovan. It's their nature, Eleanor replied. For centuries, they've been the dominant military power in this sector. One setback won't change their perspective overnight. They were meeting in the secure conference room adjacent to the command center. President Alvarez attended virtually, her hologram sitting at the head of the table alongside various military and political advisors. What do you recommend, Admiral? The president asked. We should secure the release of our detained crews first, Eleanor said. Then negotiate the fleet's release in stages, perhaps 5 vessels at a time, conditional on the Athraxi meeting specific diplomatic benchmarks. Defense Minister Garcia leaned forward. We should demand full demilitarization of their border regions with human space. Now is the time to press our advantage. Careful, cautioned Ambassador Thomas. Excessive demands will only confirm what many council species fear, that we'll abuse this technology to become the new tyrants of the galaxy. The debate continued for hours, with various factions arguing for approaches ranging from maximum pressure to magnanimous restraint. Finally, President Alvarez raised her hand for silence. We've achieved our immediate objective, demonstrating that humanity cannot be bullied or marginalized, she said. Now we need to show the galaxy what kind of power we intend to be. She turned to Dr. Okafor, who had been quietly observing. Amara, you've created something that has changed the fundamental balance of power in our region of the galaxy. What do you think we should do with it? Amara considered the question carefully. The Prometheus technology was never meant to be a permanent solution, Madam President. It's a leverage point, a way to secure our place at the table. If we use it simply to become the new Athraxi, we'll eventually face the same resistance they now face. She projected a new display showing council space divided into regulatory zones. I propose we offer to place the Prometheus network under joint regulatory control, a committee composed of Earth representatives and delegates from key council species. No single civilization would have unilateral power over interstellar travel. The room fell silent as they considered this proposal. That would mean surrendering our technological advantage. General Donovan objected. Not surrendering, Amara corrected, transforming it from a weapon into a foundation for a new kind of galactic governance, one based on mutual oversight rather than military dominance. President Alvarez studied the proposal thoughtfully. It's certainly unexpected. The Council would never anticipate such an offer from us, which is precisely why it might succeed. Ambassador Thomas interjected, warming to the idea. It positions humanity not as conquerors but as architects of a more balanced system. The president nodded slowly. Draft the proposal, Doctor. We'll present it to the Council tomorrow, along with our response to Commander Krell. 2 weeks after humanity's proposal to the Council, a massive vessel appeared at the edge of the Sol system. It emerged from FTL without warning, its design unlike anything in human records. Nearly 4 kilometers long, the ship resembled a series of interlocked rings surrounding a central spine. Energy readings from the vessel exceeded Earth's entire power grid. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, alarms blared as tracking systems registered the unknown contact. Unknown vessel has bypassed our early warning network, reported the tactical officer, voice tight with tension. It's completely unaffected by the Prometheus field. Admiral Eleanor Reed studied the readings with growing concern. How is that possible? Nothing should be able to navigate through an active disruption zone. Dr. Okafor frantically analyzed the incoming data. The vessel is using some form of drive technology we've never encountered. It's not manipulating quantum fields the way conventional FTL systems do. Are they hostile? Demanded President Alvarez, her hologram appearing at the command table. General Donovan shook his head. No weapon signatures detected, Madam President. They're holding position at the system boundary and broadcasting. A request for diplomatic contact. Origin? Eleanor asked. That's the strange part, Donovan replied. They identify themselves as the Vordax Assembly. No such species is registered in council records. Ambassador Thomas, who had been summoned from his quarters, looked up sharply. That's impossible. The Vordax are a myth. Stories told by older council species about a civilization that supposedly retreated from galactic affairs thousands of years ago. Apparently, Eleanor said dryly, the myth just parked a 4-kilometer ship on our doorstep. President Alvarez considered the situation. If they wanted to attack, they could have done so without warning. Respond to their hail, Admiral. Let's hear what these Vordax want. The main screen activated, revealing a being unlike any alien humans had encountered. The Vordax representative appeared humanoid but with skin that shimmered like polished metal. Its eyes were solid black and what might have been hair moved independently, like tendrils of liquid mercury. Greetings, people of Earth, the being said, its voice resonating with harmonics that made the air vibrate strangely. I am Overseer Teth of the Vordax Assembly. We have observed your demonstration of quantum field manipulation with great interest. Eleanor stepped forward. This is Admiral Eleanor Reed of Earth. Your presence is unexpected. Council records contain no information about your species. The Council's memory is selective, Teth replied with what might have been amusement. We withdrew from open galactic affairs 7,000 of your years ago. Our existence became legend, then myth. This suited our purposes. Yet you've chosen to reveal yourselves now, Ambassador Tomas noted. Why? Teth's fluid-like hair rippled. Because you have independently discovered technology that mirrors our own from millennia past. The ability to control the fundamentals of interstellar travel carries profound responsibilities. Responsibilities we once found too burdensome to bear alone. The implications of this statement stunned the human leadership. This advanced civilization had possessed Prometheus-like technology thousands of years ago and had chosen to retreat from galactic politics rather than use it. We request a formal meeting, Teth continued. Our assembly wishes to share knowledge that may be relevant to humanity's current situation. We offer our vessel as neutral ground for this exchange. After the transmission ended, heated debate erupted among Earth's leadership. Some argued it was too risky to board an unknown alien vessel with technology that could bypass their defenses. Others saw an unprecedented opportunity to gain insights from a civilization thousands of years more advanced than any known species. I'll go, Eleanor volunteered finally, along with Dr. Okafor and Ambassador Thomas. The three of us understand the Prometheus technology and its diplomatic implications better than anyone. President Alvarez reluctantly agreed. Proceed with extreme caution, Admiral. This could be the most significant first contact since humanity reached the stars. 6 hours later, a human shuttle docked with the massive Vordax vessel. Eleanor, Amara, and Ambassador Thomas were greeted by Vordax attendants whose bodies seemed to flow rather than walk as they guided the humans through cavernous corridors. Their technology is incredible, Amara whispered, scanning their surroundings with barely concealed excitement. These structures appear to be grown rather than built, some form of programmable matter. The delegation was led to a circular chamber where Overseer Teth waited alongside 5 other Vordax. The room featured a large holographic display showing galactic maps and historical records dating back thousands of years. Welcome, Teth greeted them. Few outside our assembly have set foot on a Vordax vessel in millennia. Eleanor responded with formal diplomacy while her mind raced, trying to understand the Vordax's true motives. We're honored by your invitation, Overseer. Though I must admit your sudden appearance has raised many questions. Questions we intend to answer, Teth assured them. Beginning with the most important one, why we have remained hidden for so long, and why we choose to emerge now. The holographic display shifted, showing ancient footage of what appeared to be historical events. Vast fleets engaged in combat that spanned entire star systems. The devastation was beyond anything in recorded council history. 8,000 years ago, the Vordax Assembly was the dominant power in this galactic sector, Teth explained. We discovered what you call the Prometheus effect, the ability to manipulate quantum fields that govern FTL travel. Initially, we used this technology defensively much as you have, The display shifted again, showing more conflicts. But power breeds resistance. Other species developed countermeasures. Wars erupted. Billions died as civilizations fought for control of travel corridors and disputed whether any single species should wield such influence. Eleanor exchanged glances with her companions. This was the nightmare scenario their critics had warned about. Prometheus technology leading to massive interstellar conflict. Eventually, Teth continued, our assembly made a difficult decision. We developed drive systems that operated on different principles, unaffected by quantum field manipulation, and withdrew from galactic affairs. We erased most records of our existence and retreated to isolated regions to observe and learn. You've been watching us, Amara realized. All these years. We monitor all emerging civilizations, Teth confirmed, particularly those approaching technological thresholds that historically lead to significant upheaval. Your discovery of the Prometheus effect qualified as such a threshold. Ambassador Thomas leaned forward. If you possess technology unaffected by quantum disruption, why not share it with the Council? It would have prevented the power imbalance that led to our current situation. Teth's expression was unreadable, but his tone conveyed gravity. Because some knowledge comes at too high a price. The conflicts that emerged from our era cost trillions of lives across hundreds of worlds. We chose isolation rather than risk repeating history. Eleanor processed this sobering information. Then why reveal yourselves to us now? Why not remain hidden? Because you've taken a path we never considered, Teth replied, genuine curiosity in his voice. Your proposal to place the Prometheus network under joint oversight, to transform a potential weapon into a foundation for shared governance, is without precedent in our records. The holographic display changed to show Earth's proposal to the Council. We wish to understand your reasoning and perhaps to offer an alternative perspective based on our experiences. What followed was an intense exchange of ideas. The Vordax shared historical records of how quantum field manipulation had evolved in their era, including catastrophic mistakes and unforeseen consequences. The humans explained their vision for the Interstellar Transit Authority and how it might avoid the pitfalls that had plagued previous power transitions. Hours later, as the discussion concluded, Overseer Teth made an unexpected proposal. The Vordax Assembly wishes to end our isolation. We propose to serve as neutral mediators in the establishment of your Interstellar Transit Authority. The offer stunned the human delegation. Having an advanced civilization with no current political ties to the Council would completely change the dynamics of the negotiations. Why would you take such a step after thousands of years of isolation? Eleanor asked. Because you have created an opportunity for a different outcome than our history produced, Teth answered. The Athraxi ascendancy has created imbalances similar to those that plagued our era. Your Prometheus technology could either correct these imbalances or exacerbate them catastrophically. We wish to help guide the process towards stability rather than conflict. As the humans prepared to depart with this extraordinary offer, Teth approached Eleanor privately. There is one more matter, Admiral. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity within the Athraxi Dominion. Despite their public cooperation with Council proceedings, their military command appears to be preparing a desperate measure. Eleanor's expression hardened. What kind of measure? We believe. 6 months after the failed Athraxi attack on Earth, representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations gathered at a newly constructed space station, orbiting the neutral world of Cygnus Prime. The Interstellar Concordat, as the conference had been named, represented the most significant diplomatic gathering in 12,000 years of galactic history. The station's grand assembly hall had been designed specifically for this historic occasion, with architecture that incorporated elements from all participating species. At the center stood a circular table with 9 primary seats, the founding members of what would become the Interstellar Transit Authority. Admiral Eleanor Reed adjusted her formal uniform as she prepared to enter the hall. After months of intense negotiations, today would see the signing of the Galactic Charter, a new framework for interstellar governance that would replace the council system that had dominated for millennia. Nervous? Asked Ambassador Thomas, who would represent Earth alongside her. Apprehensive, Eleanor corrected. We've disrupted the established order of an entire galaxy. Now we need to make sure what replaces it is actually better. They entered the assembly hall together, joining the other delegates at the central table, representatives from the Vortan Collective, the Helian Republic, the Jexari Technocracy, the reformed Athraxi Confederation, now led by moderates after their government's collapse, and 3 other species that had emerged as key supporters of the new order. The 9th seat belonged to Overseer Teth of the Vordax Assembly, who would serve as neutral mediator. Around them in concentric circles sat delegates from dozens of other civilizations, some that had been minor players under the old council, others that had been excluded entirely. All would have a voice in the new system. Overseer Teth rose to open the proceedings. For 7,000 years, the Vordax Assembly watched from the shadows as the galaxy repeated patterns of dominance and submission. We withdrew because we believed no better system was possible. Today we acknowledge that our assessment may have been wrong. Teth gestured to the human delegation. It took a species new to interstellar travel, unconstrained by our historical assumptions, to envision a different path. The charter we signed today transforms a technology of control into a foundation for cooperation. The charter itself was the product of months of intense negotiation. Its core principle was simple. The Prometheus network would be placed under the oversight of the Transit Authority, with no single species having unilateral control. Travel corridors, regulatory protocols, and dispute resolution mechanisms were carefully defined to balance the interests of all. Civilizations, Eleanor watched as delegates, came forward one by one to add their signatures or equivalent marks to the document. Even the Athraxi representative, a reformist who had helped prevent the attack on Earth, participated, though the once mighty Dominion now existed as a diminished confederation of worlds. As the ceremony concluded, Eleanor found herself standing near a viewport overlooking Cygnus Prime. The blue-green world below represented something rare in the galaxy, a planet that had been declared neutral territory centuries ago, where species from across known space could meet without political entanglements. "It's appropriate that we're meeting here," observed Dr. Amara Okafor, joining Eleanor at the viewport. "A neutral world for a new beginning." "If it is truly a new beginning," Eleanor replied. "Charter signatures are easy. Implementation will be the real challenge." "Always the skeptic, Admiral," Amara said with a slight smile. "Yet here we are 6 months after demonstrating Prometheus, and the galaxy hasn't descended into chaos or war. That's something. Thanks largely to the Vordax," Eleanor noted. "Without their intervention against the kinetic weapons, Earth might be a debris field now." "Perhaps," Amara acknowledged. "But the Vordax would never have revealed themselves without our actions first. Everything is connected." Their conversation was interrupted by an aide informing them that the first session of the Transit Authority would begin shortly. As founding architects of the Prometheus technology, both women held key positions in the new organization, Eleanor as Earth's primary representative, and Amara as head of the Technical Oversight Committee. "Ready to make history again?" Amara asked as they walked toward the council chamber. Eleanor nodded. "Let's hope we get it right this time." The authority's first major test came 3 months later. A territorial dispute between the Jexari and a non-member species called the Krell threatened to escalate into open conflict. Both claimed a resource-rich asteroid belt in a border region, and the Krell had deployed military vessels to assert their claim. The Transit Authority convened an emergency session. Under the old council system, such disputes typically favored the militarily stronger party or those with powerful allies. The Krell, believing this dynamic would continue, expected their superior fleet to secure their claim despite the new political structure. "The Krell vessels have established a blockade around the Targus Belt," reported the Jexari representative. "They're preventing our mining operations and have threatened to fire on any ships that approach. They refuse to recognize authority jurisdiction in this matter." Eleanor studied the tactical display showing the disputed region. "The Krell aren't signatories to the charter, but they do use standard FTL technology affected by Prometheus fields." Overseer Teth, who chaired the session, turned to the authority's legal advisor. "What are our options under the charter provisions?" Article 7 allows for the establishment of neutral zones around disputed territories pending resolution, the advisor explained. "We can implement a travel restriction that prevents military vessels from entering the region, while allowing civilian traffic under neutral. Observation. The Authority. Voted to invoke Article 7. Within hours, Prometheus field generators were calibrated to create a specialized disruption zone around the disputed asteroid belt. Military vessels attempting to engage FTL drives within the zone would find their systems disabled, while civilian ships could pass unaffected. The Krell government protested vehemently, but when their reinforcement fleet found itself unable to reach the disputed territory, they reluctantly agreed to arbitration. For the first time, a territorial dispute had been de-escalated through regulation of travel, rather than through military posturing or political alliances. As news of the successful intervention spread, applications for authority membership increased. Species that had been hesitant to join the new organization began to see its practical benefits, particularly those that had been vulnerable under the old system. 1 year after the signing of the charter, humanity faced a moment of truth. The original agreement had given Earth temporary control over the Prometheus technology's core functions, with a mandated transfer to fully shared administration after 12 months. Some voices on Earth argued for delaying this transfer, citing security concerns and the need for additional safeguards. A minority faction in the government even suggested maintaining backdoor access to the system, a hidden override that would give humanity emergency control if needed. The HFY debate reached its climax during a closed session of Earth's Security Council. President Alvarez listened as various advisors presented their positions. "We created this technology," argued General Donovan. "Maintaining ultimate control is simply prudent safeguarding of our interests. The galaxy's stability is still fragile," Dr. Okafor countered firmly. "The entire legitimacy of the authority rests on the principle that no single species controls interstellar travel. A backdoor would violate the foundation of trust we've built." Eleanor, who had remained silent through much of the debate, finally spoke. "A year ago, we faced extinction because the Athraxi couldn't accept a galaxy where they weren't dominant. Are we now considering the same mistake?" Her question hung in the air, forcing everyone to confront the parallels. Eventually, President Alvarez reached her decision. "We will proceed with the full transfer as scheduled," she announced. "Humanity's advantage isn't in controlling the technology, it's in helping shape the system that governs it. That influence doesn't require hidden overrides or special access." The transition proceeded as planned. On the anniversary of the charter signing, the core Prometheus control systems were transferred to the authority's headquarters at Cygnus Prime. Earth retained its position as one of the founding members, but the technology itself now belonged to the collective. 2 years after the failed peace talks that had started everything, Eleanor found herself back where it all began, the Galactic Council chambers. The massive hall looked much the same, but its function had changed dramatically. The council now served primarily as a forum for cultural exchange and scientific collaboration, while regulatory authority had shifted to the new institutions created under the charter. High Arbiter Vox, who had somehow maintained his position through the political upheaval, approached Eleanor after the session concluded. "Admiral Reed," he greeted her, his bioluminescent patterns displaying a complex mix of emotions. "I must confess, when you walked out of these chambers 2 years ago, I never anticipated where events would lead." "Neither did we," Eleanor admitted. "We were simply trying to ensure humanity's survival.